Hello and welcome to Guy's Voice podcast episode 9. I will be joined by Daniel Alden on this episode. Just need to wait for him to come on. And we're also going to have Guy calling in, and Daniel's going to be asking Guy some questions. And then myself and Daniel will be doing a bit of a closing statement, just to go over some of the bits that we haven't, just to make sure that we've covered everything so far. Okay, Daniel's in. Hi, Cammy. Okay, Daniel, do you want to call in? Because I've got Guy ready.
You may start the conversation now.
Hello. Right, I'm just making Daniel call in, and then we can start. Daniel? Daniel?
I'm at 5.
I'm at 5. Come on, Daniel, call in. He's there. Where is he? He's on. So why's Daniel, call in? Let me see what he's doing. He's just come back on. Oh, there we go. Right. Okay. This is actually the first time that you and Daniel have spoken, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Hello, Daniel. Can anyone hear Daniel? Because I can't hear Daniel. Cammy, can you hear Daniel? Oh, he's gone. Yeah, I just connected his call. Okay, right. Try calling in again, Daniel. Something Daniel's end. He said his phone was going a bit funny. No, it's not. It's not coming through, Daniel. Sign out and then come back in again. See if that works.
Not coming through, Daniel.
Does anyone have any questions for Guy while Daniel's trying to get connected? You can type them and then I will ask them. Or anyone want to say hello? Yeah, everyone can hear you. They can hear what you're saying. Cammy, can you hear Guy clear? Just making sure everyone can hear you clear. Okay, right, Daniel's back in. Right, okay, Daniel's calling again. Connect. Okay, Guy, you need to talk up a little bit, apparently. And
can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
All right, great.
Okay, 1 second, because I need to put one headphone so that, right, okay, let's test this. Okay, Guy, you need to tell me if you can hear Daniel, okay? Right, okay, Daniel.
Guy. Hey, Guy, how are you doing?
I can't hear, bud.
Can you not hear? Okay, try again, Daniel.
Good day. Guy, can you hear me okay?
Can you hear Daniel?
Not good.
Not good. Okay, right, try now, Daniel.
Good morning, Guy. Or good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I can't hear him good enough that if I might have to have you repeat some of the stuff.
Okay, I might have to repeat some of the stuff back to him, Daniel, because I'm
Okay.
with headphones and microphones. But I'm holding the headphone up. But if I put something else on playing what you're saying off of like a different device, it's going to give me too bad feedback. So we'll try it like this, and then if you can't hear, I'll repeat it.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, right, off we go. Let's try this. Over to you. Over to you two.
All right, so yeah, this is the first time we've spoken. It's been a rough ride so far.
I'll hear a lot.
Hey, no, you owe me nothing. I'm fine.
Well, thank you.
I think there's quite a bit of delay between what I'm saying and when he's hearing it. Is that the same for everybody?
I can hear you both as you speak, I think. Okay, you ask your first question and then we'll see how quickly Guy hears it compared to me.
Okay, that's fine. My first question that I had come up with, Guy, was right after trial, before, when they were first going into deliberation, not when they came out any of the times after that, but the very first time. At that point, did you and Newell Hamilton and your defense team have a pretty good idea that you had actually, that the verdict would be not guilty? How did you feel about it at that point?
If my memory serves correct, but I remember this. I don't remember per se. I remember him saying that things were going good, and like it was looking. I ain't gonna say looking like they said exactly. But first of all, they're not gonna give you any false hope. They don't want to give you any false hope. But they said, because I asked them numerous times, obviously I did, and they said, it said it's looking good. And when they kept deliberating, they said the longer they deliberate, it's always better for the defendant. And I remember feeling good about it. I remember feeling good. I remember feeling like, I don't see how they definitely improved no case against me. And the stuff of what Darius said on the stand, and like it was obvious like the jury coming back in, they wasn't understanding stuff. I remember feeling good about it, and I remember knowing them telling me like the longer they deliberate, the better. That's what I remember personally.
Right, and that makes perfect sense to me, because it sure seems like once I got through the opening arguments by the prosecution, or the opening statement by the prosecution, there never was a point after that I thought anything but not guilty. So I'm really hoping.
Can you repeat that, Daniel? Sorry.
Sure. Once I got through reading through the transcripts, once I got through the prosecution's opening statement, there never was a point that I thought anything but not guilty. Now, I had to get through that drivel by Johnson first, but after that, I never saw anything that was pointing towards your guilt. So I would have assumed that at the end of the trial that you and your defense team would have felt the same way, that you had a lock on this.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I felt good about it, but like they're never gonna give me false hope. But they said it was going as good as about as good as they could expect, something along the line. But they said it was going good.
Right.
They're so scared about giving you any type of false hope or anything like that. They don't want to do it.
Right, of course. I guess my second question was. Go ahead.
Yeah, go on.
No, go ahead.
I remember feeding off this too when Edwards, and because listen, I had a lot of respect for this dude. First of all, I didn't know this dude. I mean, Tyler knew his daughter or whatever, and I met his daughter before. But I didn't know this dude. But I remember I was young. I was 22 years old. Well, I was 22 at the time when I got locked up, but I was like 26 when the time I went to trial. But I was young, still naive. I had a lot of respect for this dude. I know this dude was like a federal agent or whatever for years upon years upon years. And I'm sitting there, I'm knowing what I'm seeing, and when he starts coming out in the jury and telling me there's no evidence, I'm not convicting this guy. Like, I did get a high off of that. I was feeding on that. I was like, if he sees the same thing I'm seeing, like, this dude right here's been in this type of thing for years.
Right, of course.
I remember feeding on that.
And my second question for you was there any ever banter? One of the things that I did start looking at very closely was there seemed to be a lot of reason to almost think that the cops were protecting somebody else, that they knew who the actual killer was and were getting rid of any piece of evidence that would lead suspicion away from you. Was there ever any talk, any banter between you and the defense team, or did you ever hear any of them mention that might be, or did everybody just always think that the Glynn County Police Department was just that incompetent that they bungled everything, one thing right after the other?
I think, Daniel, listen, this is my honest opinion. I think it had a little bit of incompetence, it had a lot to do with politics, how big the case was, and somebody had to go down. I think that they generally think that I had something to do with it. There ain't no way that they think there's no way they can think that's all they think. I don't think they covered up for somebody. I just think they wasn't prepared. There was so much evidence, and then we ended up making them like an idiot. They didn't collect the right evidence, maybe the most damning. They didn't collect nothing that they really needed to collect. I think it was a mixture of incompetence.
Do you think it was like
so big?
Like a bit of a snowball almost, like they messed up at the start, realised they'd messed up and were like digging themselves a hole basically, and if they kind of admitted that they'd messed up as bad as they had, they'd look stupid, so that's when they're having to kind of hide more stuff, not necessarily knowing who it was.
As bad as I want to say that they look, as bad as I want to say that they messed up and everything, I mean, I'm an honest person, I just gotta be honest. I don't think that they were prepared for this. I don't think there was no general like this malice in my. I just don't think that. I think that they wasn't prepared. I think it was incompetent in how big everything was. Community outcry. Somebody had to be arrested for it. Okay, and I think that like maybe to start, they generally probably did think I had something to do with it, I guess. But it's hard to answer. I just don't want to say that they just like covered up for somebody. I think it was incompetence, politics, and it just went along that way. But if they would have called the GBI in, maybe that would have helped more. I mean, some evidence tested. There's a whole bunch of things, really. I just don't think it was just like they were covering up or nothing like that. I think it was totally. I think they singled in on me. They had to. But I read these books about television. Like when you single in on somebody, what is the thing? You look for everything to convict them, and not everything to exonerate them.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, just a whole lot of confirmation bias. Okay.
What is that? Yeah, and confirmation bias. Is that what he said?
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, confirmation bias.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, got more, Daniel?
Not right off the top of my head. Let's.
Guy's got something else to add. Okay, go on then.
I'm sorry.
No, go on.
The incompetent in this thing. Hold on. Do I need to stop?
No, go on. Yep, your turn.
Oh, my bad. The incompetence in the part, and I just keep seeing this in my head, and it's hard to try to explain what you think about any or all this and what the police did because there's so many angles, there's so much going on. But I keep harping on this piece of evidence, this blood evidence in the bathroom that was never collected. That is blatant that was important, okay? It was important. Stuff like this is what I'm talking about, incompetence right here. And not testing the fingerprint against other people running through ages. This type of stuff right here, and I'm not on harp and say that was like them doing it intention. I think it was just stupidity and incompetence. And like not knowing what to do. They wasn't prepared for something.
Right.
I was more on the malicious part as with John B. Johnson. Like lying about this bloody print or whatever in the damn drawer. I would lean towards him more on the malicious, untruthful part, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
Because Dar's got to understand. I remember something like that. You were in the transcript when you read it, he said, I think that I have the right person, I have this right, but I could be wrong.
Oh no, I didn't catch that anywhere. But I mean, it's really hard to try to figure out what exactly. That I went up and talked to the reporter that was there for every day of the trial, and to him there was two pieces of evidence only that he thought pointed towards guilt, and one, of course, being the shorts, and the other, of course, being the gun. And I sat there with him, the gun in the trunk, and I sat there with him for about an hour and a half.
Oh, Daniel, hold on 1 second because the phone's okay. If you hang up, Guy, and then we'll call straight back. All right, bye.
The caller has hung up.
Right, okay, he's going to call straight back.
Okay.
Can everyone hear clearly, just while we're waiting for Guy to call back? Can everyone hear Daniel clear and hear Guy clear? It seems to be working what I'm doing. I'm literally having to sit here with one earbud up against the microphone on my phone so Guy can hear Daniel, and then like the phone pressed up against the speaker on my headphones in like this really awkward position. And then at one point I dropped the headphone and I'm like, oh no, he's meant to be listening to that part. Okay, right, he's calling back. If anyone wants to, Guy's a little quiet, okay. How is that gun evidence of anything? Okay, once Guy's answered all his questions, then if anyone's got any questions for Daniel, you can come on and answer them. If anyone wants to call in and speak to Guy as well. Oh, right, okay, I'm just going to connect him.
Using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
Hello?
Hello. Okay, right, you're back on. Okay, Daniel, do you want to carry on?
Okay.
Oh.
Can I interrupt? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go on, Guy.
I'm not trying to interrupt you, Daniel, but you made me think about something else I want to say. This is going to stem off what you asked for. Okay, listen. We're talking about when Matt Doran came out, and okay, this goes back to the police incompetence and their will or whatever their intention was. All this, I'm gonna tie together. Listen, their main pieces of evidence they're saying was, okay, I picked the shotgun up and then put the shotgun in the trunk, and blood on my shorts where it shouldn't be. Correct? Blood on my shorts where it shouldn't be. Okay. And there was cross-contamination everywhere to start with. But first of all, I ran off to the crime scene, waiting on 911, checking on everybody. I was all through there. I was panicked. I was in shock, running through this thing. Okay? And I picked up the shotgun, and I took the shotgun. I had the shotgun out when I ran back to the car or whatever. I opened the trunk of the car to get peeled up the trunk or whatever. I was in shock. I took it, yes I did. And I set the shotgun there. Now, hindsight 2020, maybe that looks crazy or whatever, but I was in shock. And I picked the gun up first out for it, and this is like, that's why this is the craziest thing in the world. That was their main piece of evidence. Matt Doran coming out and saying that's what their main piece of evidence. But I feel like this is before any of this was really able to explain. Like, he came right out and said that when he said that about the blood, he just knew there was blood on the shorts. I mean, I don't understand how he can come out and say this stuff, evidence just arrest me, and he was sure that I did it. Because, I mean, I told him about the blood. I ran off to the crime scene. I told him about all that. But that was when he came out. You remember he came out in the news article and said that was the deciding factor for him.
Okay, so they were the two pieces of evidence that came to them. So when he did the press conference and he said, we've had two pieces of evidence come to us that makes us convinced we've got the right person. Well, that was the two pieces of evidence he was on about, was it? Because he never actually said what they were, did he?
Yeah, but that's what we ended up finding. I mean, I don't remember exactly how I found out, but that's what the two pieces of evidence were. So it's like, at that point, what you were supposed to tell me, at that point, that was your deciding factor to say that I did this. And that right there is crazy to me. I feel like that's incompetence. Like, I told you I was all in the scene. I mean, I was in the scene I'm waiting on 911. I mean, but then this is where the incompetence comes in. I want to keep going.
Yeah,
then you get Mike Owens to take Mike Owens takes my shorts on that night after I've been interrogated for like 16 hours. He takes my outer pair off, puts them in his trunk, which he's going to do or whatever, and rides around with it after he's already been investigated for that, okay?
Yeah.
Then they come back later and put all my stuff in the same bag and my undershorts or whatever, and he kind of deals. All this stuff is mixed in together, but this is the big experienced police department. So, no, I'm saying all that to say that that's where all this incompetence comes in. It's not, I don't think it's Bill Will. I think Mike Owens was an idiot, did some idiotic stuff. I think Matt Doran was conceited, sure of himself, and this was his town, and he had to show the flow that he was doing his job, even if he was really sure if he was doing the right thing or not. But I don't think that he just. Does that answer your question, Hank?
No, it does actually, and I think somebody else was talking about the gun, and I've said it from the beginning. The gun is really evidence of nothing. You could have gone in there and grabbed a lampshade out of the house and put it in the trunk and it would have had the same evidentiary value as the gun because it wasn't part of the crime. It was literally had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, the one shot. I picked up the gun because I was scared. It was in the back. It was in the back of the house. I was scared. And after I ran through there, and I go in there. I see that. Then I start freaking. I run to that room. Rusty, that's where I see the gun laying. But right then, I don't know if it's like fight or flight kicks in a little bit like damn. I don't know.
Right.
What's going on? I get scared now. Now I get scared. Stop picking this gun up.
Gotcha. I totally understand.
I ran back through the house. I ain't sure if I ran all the way to the back room. I ain't sure what I did. I'm in shock. I know I went outside and I got the pills out of the trunk with her when I'm hollering and everything. And I set the gun right there in the trunk. Yeah, I did set it in the trunk. I didn't think nothing about it.
But then when the police asked, were there any weapons, you told them, you said, yes, there's a gun in the trunk. You didn't hide it or anything. It's not like you were trying to hide it from them.
Yeah, and I took like 15 pills right then. Right then when I opened that trunk, I took like 15 pills right then. I ain't gonna say I was sick. I just wanted to stop feeling. And I was in shock. I was in panic. I just wanted to know my senses for real. I didn't know it.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, I think I puked on the ground out there and everything. Right there when I was talking about when I was talking to Orlando. I think she said that.
Yeah. That was in the statement, wasn't it, Daniel? She said about.
Yeah, yeah. She testified to that.
Yeah.
But that's their harping on this evidence, which is so crazy to me. But the ill will and what I think the untruthfulness is why I would put on John B. Johnson if anything was untruthful. I mean, or like completely trying to falsify shit. He was shit. Bless him. I'm sorry, Grandma. I know you're listening. I'm sorry because but when he lied about this bloody print or whatever, that was a big thing, and he straight lied about it. He lied about it. That bloody print wasn't in no drawer. My hand was in that blood print. It was right there. It had to be laying right there on the nightstand by Michael or whatever. It had to.
Yeah, and there's no proof anywhere.
He lied about that.
Yeah, because there was no proof.
He knows he lied about it. He knows he lied about it. That was trial. That's what they call like what's that they call? That's like trial, like a trial trick or whatever. He lied. He knows he lied. But it's obvious that he's lied about a bunch of stuff now. Look at all the other trouble he's got. He's lied about a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. Absolutely. I sent a letter. I hope nothing. I hope some, your evidence is still around to be retested. Because all of it needs to be.
Hold on, Daniel, 1 second. Do you want to repeat that? He didn't catch that.
Sure. I said, I'm hoping that all your evidence is still around, still in existence to be retested and re-looked at.
Well, already that piece of evidence is destroyed.
Yeah.
Right.
That's destroyed. That's gone. I don't know what's left. Honestly, I don't think nothing. I know the trailer was going to destroy. I know that right there was destroyed because that was something Christina Rudy put in her. One of the pills she was going to draft my previous lawyer. Then it was destroyed before we got to test it. The print on the headboard, I know that's gone. That's gone. Unless the headboard's still in the department, but I doubt it.
Well, the prints themselves, there has to be still photos of or something somewhere. When they asked about running the print through the national database with the FBI, that leads me to believe that they did at least take pictures and lift that print, and that it existed somewhere. So even though the headboard may be gone, the print itself should be able to be put through the.
I'm not trying to interrupt. Listen. I wanted to ask you something. I remember one time you put it was the petition or the summary, Drew. You said you worked with some type of camera or whatever. Listen, I want to ask you something. If there is pictures of prints, like what you're talking about right here, if there is pictures, could you test these prints? Could you test these prints in a picture? Could you match? Is that possible?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I work with inspection cameras and they are, you're talking about within a thousandth of an inch, they can tell defects in a product. And the same thing would be true of a fingerprint, it would be incredible. And I think that if they were asking them to eyeball a print and compare it to yours, then it certainly could have been run through a camera system back then, through an inspection photo system. And that would be nothing but improved today. So absolutely they could run it through an inspection program. I don't think there's any way that fingerprint would not be testable. They don't need to have, a full fingerprint or 100% of the points on the fingerprint match. They only need a handful of them. I think it's 12 or 14 points to match.
Like a parcel print, they just match that to a part.
Yeah, so it would definitely be able to be looked at without a doubt.
Is that the same, Daniel, with like the hair as well? Like how testing hair's moved on? I was talking about this with Jennifer the other day. Like, when they tested the hair in Chrissy and Russell's hand, they said, oh yeah, no, it appears to be their own hair. But whereas like nowadays testing's come on so much more, isn't it? That you could actually, if it had the hair follicle,
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago that hair, you couldn't test it for DNA. It was, unless it had the follicle on it or a piece of skin on it, the only thing you could do was hair comparisons, comparing the thickness of the hair with other people's hair, comparing the coarseness of the hair, just actual physical characteristics that could be seen under a microscope. But today with touch DNA being able to, if you rub up against somebody, you leave skin cells.
You said about this, didn't you, Daniel, about the touch DNA on the trousers? You said you hoped they were still there.
Right, because today, you leave skin cells every time you touch something. There's skin cells all throughout your hair from skin that's just, on top of your head, and there's skin cells on it. So it's definitely a possibility to find DNA on a hair now without the follicle.
Touch DNA is a big thing right now. I just got an article. I'll tell you more about it. I'll tell Jody to tell you more about it when I got it. But it's in this criminal legal news I got. But they're talking about everybody, like the whole nation is harping on touch DNA, and it's a bigger science now. But I ain't read the article. I recently got a magazine, but it's got a whole article in there about touch DNA. I'm not reading.
Oh, absolutely. It's huge. That's how far we've come in testing of DNA. You literally don't, if somebody picks up an item, you can now prove they picked it up without blood on it, without a chunk of skin attached to it, just simply off of skin cells. It's incredible.
Guy, did you have any questions for Daniel?
That one right there is one I just saw about the cameras with it, but no, I don't.
Yeah. Daniel, have you got any more? Go on, Daniel.
Yeah, somebody's asking about the same with the hair and fingernails. Yes, it is. Yeah, you absolutely can get all this stuff on, and these are things that this is, again, going to lead to, blatant incompetence not to take fingernail scrapings from under the fingernails of the victims. It wasn't done, and it needed to be, and that's something that we can't go back and do now. Fingerprints from the bodies, because it's rare and it's hard to get a fingerprint off of a body, but it is doable.
Sorry, Daniel, one second. I think Guy missed that. Guy, he was saying about how they really failed when they didn't take fingernail scrapings off of anybody, and obviously that's too late now to go back and do.
Did that? Now listen, if I remember something, they didn't take nowhere, no fingernail scrapings or anybody anywhere?
No, nobody's. Or if they did, they were never tested.
Well, that goes back along with the incompetence thing.
Yeah.
Not knowing what to do. And that was our defense. That was my defense right there. My defense was, well, you can't convict me because you don't have enough evidence and you screwed everything up. So, and it really did.
What's the rest you were saying about that, Daniel?
Oh, that they just blew it by not doing that, not checking for fingerprints on the bodies. They had, they had not only the lack of pulling evidence, but they had the opportunity to check every single body for fingerprints, and they just flat out didn't. It wasn't that they tried and didn't get anything. They just didn't even try.
Okay.
Hey, I can call back one more time.
Yeah. All right then. Bye. Okay. Okay. Guy's going to call back one more time. We're really, really lucky because one of the phones is broken there, so we didn't think we'd have to call at all. Has anyone got any questions they want to type up quickly that they want Guy to answer? What was it, Jennifer? I might have missed that one. I'm literally got a really crooked neck at the moment trying to hold everything in one place, so I might have missed that one. What was your question? Did you see the question, Daniel?
I think it's had the pills been in the trunk the whole time? As in the whole time that he had the car?
Okay, we can ask him that one. Okay.
2. If you would like to permanently block your number from receiving call, thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
Hello. Okay, right. Jennifer had a question. Okay, what was it, Daniel? Because I missed it.
Had the pills been in the trunk of the car the whole time that Guy had the car in his possession?
So, when you said you took pills out of the trunk of the car, had they been in there the whole time that you had the car?
All right, yeah, that's a great question, Jennifer. I just got to clarify that. Okay, we're going to talk about all these pills. This was the bottle of dog test that prescribed Michael Toller. Okay, everybody used his car. That was John B. Johnson. That was one of his things, saying killed everybody for some money, which I already had money. I got paid it out. I was paying to have a trailer book at the hour. I did this for $400 and a bottle of Darvis test. Anybody doesn't know anything about pills, Darvis tests are the weakest scheduled pill there is, or what I think it's schedule 1, whatever. It's the weakest. It's the weakest pain pill there is. I don't know. What's grandma was right here? She told me what it is. It's scheduled something. It's the weakest pain pill they have. Okay, I took 15 of them right then, and still wasn't that high. But that thing about these pills right here, and I think these pills should have been more. I think this is something new. You should have said more about these pills during trial. Everybody, they were using that car. Rusty Toller used that. It was Russell Toller Jr.'s car, but Russell Toller Sr., my dad, everybody rode in that car. It was their only mode of transportation. Everybody rode in that car. So Rusty went and got this Michael's prescription filled in his car. Okay, so these pills they had been in the house. The bottle of pills had been in the house, but somehow they were back in the car. Okay, Michael wasn't taking them. He had got them for his hip or whatever. He had hip pumps. He wasn't taking some of them, and I was young. I was a drug addict. Yes, I was. And the pills were back in the car. I took some of them for Rusty. You knew I took some of them. Michael wasn't taking them. I took some, and they were in the car. I borrowed the car that night, and they were in the car. So yeah, I got them out of the trunk of the car.
Jennifer said their motive for the killing. Yeah, and Jennifer's commented. She said their motive for the killing is irrelevant if they were in the car the whole time, because you had access to them before even going back into. Yeah. And they're saying you did it for the Darva set, yet if they were in the car the whole time, you had access to them without having to go into the trailer.
Yeah, I had access to the pills all the time. I mean, Russ didn't care about his pill, wasn't worried about his pill. Michael wasn't taking them anyway. Michael had like hip surgery back when he was younger.
Yeah.
So he had hip problems. And they had this prescription like weeks ago. I ain't sure, it was like weeks ago. But the prescription, that's how he went to the pharmacy and got it and filled in that car. So everybody just, I can't remember exactly what it said. They harp on why I did it for the pills, and it was crazy that I had the pills. I'm just trying to make everybody understand. That's how.
No, I think
I got the pill. I knew her in the car.
That's really helped. You answering that has really helped, I think, because like people, the way they've kind of played it is that you went in and you tried to fight Russell for these pills because he had them in the trailer. But if they were in the car, you didn't even need to go into the trailer to get them. You had them in your possession anyway. So that's answering that has really helped.
Another thing I want to elaborate on this, make me think about the money. They said I did $400. Okay, listen, I got paid that day. Okay, and I can't remember the numbers exactly, but I remember Shannon Hayes. She was one of the investigator. She did everything. She went through everything and added up, and everything that I said, my money added up. What I had right then, what I got paid, and what I had when I got arrested, to within $10 either way.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like 300 and something you had
Everything
left,
I
wasn't
said,
it?
It went $10 either way.
Yeah,
She said she got it within $10 either way.
yeah. So you had money. It wasn't like you didn't have a job and didn't have money. Yeah, Jennifer said she did the math on it and it all added up to $391.
Yeah, so I just don't remember the numbers. It's been so long
Yeah.
ago, but I remember her saying that. I remember it, but I knew it should have harped on that a little bit more or whatever when they said it, but a jury trial is really who blows the biggest cloud of smoke. That's God knows truth, though.
Yeah. Did anyone else have any other questions for Guy? You can type them up. Daniel, have you got any more questions?
No, not right off the top of my head that hasn't been answered already in one of the podcasts now.
Guy, have you got any questions for Daniel? Or anything else you want to say?
No, I want to say something else too.
Yep.
I want to say something else. And then, okay, listen, this is another thing. This ties into all the incompetence and everything else, and maybe the police is tunnel vision or whatever, but I just want to say this. They're talking about the timeline of when everybody was killed or whatever. So, and I think me and you were talking about this, right? There is, I can't remember exactly the time or whatever, but they're saying I would have had to have killed everybody, cleaned up all this blood, and we're like Gary Knox testified. I testified. There was blood all over the crowd, all over the place. Okay, so I would have been covered in blood. I would have had to do this within like an hour and a half or 2 hours. I can't remember the time, but I would have had to kill everybody. I would have had to beat everybody to death. I would have had to clean up, covered in blood, within like an hour and a half to 2 hours before I got to where Tyler was, before I got to the motel room, before I could ever, while I was sitting on camera.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy.
It's impossible time. Yeah.
I ain't had no marks on me.
Yeah. Time-wise, it doesn't work.
In the car that I was driving, there was no blood in this car, period. None. But I just want everybody to think about it. I would have had to do all this, and by myself, I would have had to do all this, didn't have no marks. When it's plain to see Rusty fault, homeboy fault, I didn't have no marks. I would have had to do all this within, I think, an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours.
Yeah.
Make it to the island after I cleaned up blood everywhere, with no blood on me. This is crazy now. Let's think about this. Blue non-testing car, no blood.
No.
Everybody can read Gary Knox's report. Or
Michael Knox. Yeah, Michael Knox. Michael Knox, yeah.
Gary Knox was the wide receiver for the Sharks.
Oops. Oh dear. Yeah, but time-wise, there wasn't enough time because, like, originally they're saying you need an alibi from midnight, but then once they get the phone on.
Everybody just think about this for a minute. Let's play this scene. Everybody just think about this for a minute. Okay, my motive is drugs and money. I explain the pills. My money adds up either way I say it. Okay, I didn't have no marks. I didn't have no blood on. I didn't have no marks. I had blood on me after I immediately went to the scene, checking on everybody. But when I got to the island, I had no blood on, which I should have been covered in blood. Technically, I should have been covered in blood, or at least had some blood somewhere. I should have had some marks or something. None of this. So all this was because I had blood on my shorts where I explained that it should have been, which the shorts were cross-contaminated anyway and not collected. The police didn't follow none of the rules. They should, their own protocol, period, didn't follow none. But that right here, and the shotgun, it doesn't even matter. Like Daniel said, it doesn't even matter. That's what's got me here today.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what's got the real killers running around out there with y'all. Well, maybe. Well, I don't know. They could be around down here in Jacksonville. You're not you're overseas. Like anybody, they're still running around out there.
Nowhere near me. Yeah. Has anyone else?
I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just trying to show
doesn't
the
fit.
ridiculousness of
Yeah.
it. I'm just trying to get everybody to see the ridiculousness of it.
Yeah, it doesn't fit time-wise, motive-wise.
Injection for something like this, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
And now, like my grandma told me, my grandma talking about it all now. In my case, I got a good chance to get my case overturned, but everybody, all the police are dead, everybody's dead in my case. What are they gonna do? don't know what they're going to do. Everybody dead. Evidence. They're going to show it. All the evidence gone. Everything's gone. But there wasn't no evidence to start with.
No.
I get heated when I think about this sometimes. But I really just wanted to say all this for everybody just to think about this. Think about all this in your head.
Yep.
One person. The jury said, and the judge, and when Scarlett, my judge, charges on jury at the end, he basically says, go against everything you heard at this trial, because all you heard was that Guy did it. Guy was the sole person that did this. Guy did this. But at the end, he says, you can convict him as a party to the crime if you don't think he did it by himself. Well, not defensively, he said that. That sticks with me too. I think about that every day. Every day.
When the jury came back, well, not came back, but when you were told like the jury were at 9-3, what was you and the defence thinking? Was you thinking that was 9 innocent, 3 guilty, or 3 guilty, 9 innocent? Like, did anyone have any kind of inkling as to what way that was going?
I knew. No, they called him in there, and I knew it was 9 against me, 9-3 for me. But I'm saying, what I'm thinking right here, I'm thinking mistrial. I'm thinking mistrial. That's what I'm thinking. I'm going to have a long jury, and we're going to go at it again. And then Newell starts telling me, we already start playing. We're like, damn, this is good. Because I'm sitting there thinking, like, I'm a long jury, mistrial. But Newell sitting here telling me, it's like, this can be good now. We're going to get a mistrial. They're going to mistrial. It's going to be a mistrial right here. They're going to reindict you. They're going to recharge you. You're not going home. But this looks good for us because we can win the next one. And they started rattling off their statistics or whatever. I mean, and the statistics like, you have a mistrial, you got a pretty good chance of winning the next one. Now this is why I didn't deal with the juror, because the numbers go way up. I've seen eight murder trials won in 4.5 years out of the county jail, non-death penalty. If it's a death penalty, you ain't gonna win because the jury automatically thinks you're guilty. But the DA is not going to seek the death penalty on a case right here with evidence like in my case. You know what I did? Politics. That goes back to politics.
Yeah.
How big the case was, and the police had to get somebody. So I'm thinking mistrial. I'm going to get a mistrial, and then that's when the DA comes with his deal or whatever. I'm like, I'm going to have a mistrial on my own jury, but next time they're going to retrial me, and it's going to be a case I can win. No death penalty, a regular murder trial.
Yeah.
So I ain't going to lie, I am kind of getting like, maybe optimistic, but a little bit optimistic or whatever, because I know I'm not going home. I know I'm not about to win, but I am a little optimistic because I'm thinking down the line. Because that's all you can do is so like this, just think further ahead down the line.
Yeah. Jennifer said, always stay positive.
Yeah, I'm always positive. But when them other, and I don't want to talk ill to these people, but I guess I will, or I don't want to, if I don't need to, but I can't help to. When we took Edwards off, should have been 2 other holdout jurors, should have been 2 other. And I'm thinking maybe it was the 2 little naive girls, and that's what they were, naive girls, okay? That said they were confused the whole time. I've got to believe that it was them that was still with him, and I guess he had enough of an aura, like this man kind of respect. He had an aura, and they were young. There was like maybe they just flashed on his opinion, thinking he knows what he's talking about. I'm gonna go with him.
Yeah.
Which nobody should do that in a situation like this. You should be smart enough. If you're gonna be on a jury, you should be able to make up your own mind anyway.
Yeah.
But that's me. But I guess when we switched to Austin, it had to have been them 2, and they were just scared, and they went with the group.
Yeah. Couldn't stay for what they actually believed or thought for themselves.
That's another thing. There should be so many rules about people being. It shouldn't just be 18 years old and able to listen. Do you know how stupid 18-year-olds are? I'm sorry for everybody that's listening to 18-year-olds. I was stupid when I was 18. Dumb. Thought I knew everything. That's my grandma. She said, I thought I knew everything. Didn't know nothing. But how can you go on a jury when you're 18 years old?
And decide somebody's life, yeah.
Some 18-year-olds can't tie their shoes. This is crazy. I'm sorry, everybody.
No, it's good to... No, you're doing great. Has anyone got any... We've probably got like about 20, 30 seconds. If anyone's got anything they want me to tell Guy quickly.
You should, to be on a serve on a jury, you should be, I feel like you should be at least, you should maybe have to have a bachelor's degree, 2 years of technical college, you should have some type of life experience.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I
You
agree.
don't have to be. All you got to do is register for it.
You have 1 minute left.
There we go.
All right, listen. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. We're going to cut it short. There's people in prison. I'm sorry, but listen. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Daniel. Listen, I know it's the first time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You bet. You're very welcome.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Cameron. Thank you, everybody listening. And thank you, baby.
Thank you.
Thank you, Grandma. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Aunt Billy. Aunt Clarence, if you're listening too, I think you might have joined God's Noise. Thank you. All right, everybody. God bless.
Everyone says bye.
The caller has hung up.
Okay, he's gone. Okay, so after hearing like Guy talk, has anyone got anything they wanted to add to that? Daniel or anybody?
No, I totally agree with them. Well, you know my position on jury trials and how they should be handled, but
Yeah.
I've always been, kind of pushing some kind of a class going on required before a jury is seated. There are certain things that you will get arrested for telling a juror. When you talk about jury nullification over here, that is a no-no. If you say something to somebody that's going to be on a juror or is even in jury selection about juror nullification, you can be arrested for jury tampering. And that's just wrong. I mean, that's them. They want to keep the jury from knowing certain things and from knowing their rights. The truth of the matter is the jury was set up in this country as to be the most powerful people in the courtroom. It's not supposed to be the judge. A juror is actually allowed to interpret the law the way they want to interpret it, the way that they feel it should be interpreted.
Mm-hmm.
One example of that is burglary, and it really should have been. There was a burglary trial where a burglary in the state of Florida, and in most states, in every state that I know of, requires two elements. One is to break in or stay in some place that you're unwanted and to not leave when asked. And the other is to break a second law while in that building or in that area that you're in. However, I did see somebody go to trial who was a man who had just broken up with his girlfriend. She kept his dog. Okay. He went over to get his dog. She wasn't home. He went in the house and he got his dog and he left. And he was charged with burglary. There was no crime committed inside. So what the prosecutor had said was, well, his first crime was opening the screen door to the house. His second crime was opening the main door to the house. So you open the screen door, then you open the front door, you get your dog and you leave. That is ludicrous. I mean, really, if you're going to say that opening the screen door is a crime, then anybody that has ever opened the outside door to knock on the inside door has committed a crime.
Yeah.
And it was funny because when I asked the attorney about that, he had said, well, you can't just say, as a juror, you can't just say, well, this law is stupid. Well, that's totally incorrect. A juror can absolutely say this law is stupid and give a not guilty verdict. And it needs to happen more. I know a lot of people, we're talking about the drug war and everything nowadays. That's how you end the drug war. That's how you end marijuana being prosecuted the way it is for pot use, is you just say not guilty, the law is stupid. And you don't have to answer to anybody for that. You don't have to tell the judge or explain why you went with not guilty. That's your right as a juror. And jurors don't understand that today. Prosecutors and judges make them think that they are the powers in the courtroom. The prosecutors and the judges are the powers. And that's not true. It's the juror.
Interesting. Okay, right. So I want to do like a bit of a like closing statements kind of thing, which I said to Daniel about, like, just to kind of round up the last 9 weeks in a way and just make sure that we've covered some of the like most crucial facts of the case and things like that, and then just talk about them. So just to make sure that we've definitely covered the important stuff. So the fact that Guy was driving Russell's car, there was a lot of talk about he would never have let anyone driven the car. Guy's own vehicle was off the road. I think it was the fuel tank, he said, had gone on it, but he couldn't afford to get it fixed because he was paying for the trailer to be moved for him, his dad, and Tyler to move into. So he couldn't afford to have the car fixed and move the trailer. But Guy's neighbour took the stand. She lived 2 lots away and said that Russell Taylor Sr. drive the car, Chrissy had driven the car, Guy Sr. had driven the car. And Guy was giving Russell some marijuana and filling up the tank with gas for borrowing it. But the fact that he was driving the car, like, he had the car from like way before the time we know they were killed. So I don't see what the big thing is about the driving the car. Do you see what I mean, Daniel?
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, it was every witness that took the stand that knew Rusty Toller Jr. was asked, did he let anybody else drive the car? Did he ever let anybody? And they all, for the most part, they didn't say no. They just said, I've never seen anybody else drive the car. The father and son that he worked with had said that they had seen Guy Sr. driving the car. Mm-hmm. But it really backfired in their face, and why the jury dismissed, if they took that into any credibility, that Guy was, driving a car that Rusty would not have let him drive. It should have been blown out of the water by Mr. Nixon when he testified, because he was a next door neighbor and said he'd seen everybody driving that car,
Yeah.
So
but what I find crazy though is Guy had that car from maybe 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. We know they were all still alive, gone 2:30, say, in the morning. So that's like 2.5 to 3 hours he would have had the car. Like, do you see what I mean? Like, why was him having the car? Why was that such a big
I don't think
he had it for a few hours before anyway. Like, why did that even need to come up?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if he took it before the murders, they knew he had the car, and that whole idea that they wouldn't let him drive it would be irrelevant, because obviously he had it while they were still alive, and nobody called the police on him and said he stole it. So
yeah, exactly.
But it's just it's for fluff and theatrics, I think. Just like the
gun. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just like the shotgun.
Yeah, even Jennifer's just said it's dramatics.
Yeah.
Okay, so while we're on the shotgun, that was actually next on the list was the shotgun barrel. So I've put down over 240 separate wounds. The shotgun barrel is not heavy. It's not hardened steel. It's very small in diameter, smaller than that of a penny. It has the bead sight on the front. There was no injuries that showed that the bead sight had been used, like no marks. You did quite a long post about the shotgun barrel not actually holding up, didn't you, Daniel?
Not holding up, and it is a very awkward, difficult, and painful thing to even swing. I don't know if everybody knows that I bought one. I bought the shotgun barrel myself online. And it is not conducive to being used over and over again. I'll put it that way. It doesn't. It's not. It's something. If I was to hit something, not even a person, but if I was to just swing it around 3 or 4 times, it literally hurts the hand, the wrist. It's just not anything I would ever consider somebody using as a weapon.
And then when you look at some of the marks on them, like the parallel line bruising, razor sharp, shallow reaching blades. Some appeared circular, perhaps those of a hammerhead, which fits in with the 2 marks on the ceiling in one of the bedrooms. And we know that the hammer was found a year later as well. The S-shaped injuries that appeared much like the S-link on homemade nunchucks. And again, the nunchucks were found as well. So there's all these different weapon marks, yet they're convinced that it was just the one weapon.
Yeah.
The one person.
Again, that whole thing, I think, was the fact that Michael Knox said there was at least 4 weapons involved, and the fact that the prosecution insisted that there was only one was just a convenient omission. It was convenient for them to say there was just only one, because just logic would tell you, you don't switch weapons between victims. nobody's going in, beating one person, then putting that weapon down, going and finding a knife, and then go use that, or then going and finding a hammer and then use that. If to be on a rampage killing like this, you would have to be, and it still is like impossible, but you would have to be going from one person to the next, to the next, to the next, and there's no time to be switching weapons. So the fact that there was marks from 4 weapons and the fact that the prosecution refused to admit that is just, they didn't want to admit it. They didn't want anybody looking at that, you know?
Yeah. And then you've got like the blood-covered shotgun, what they kept referring to as a blood-covered shotgun. Yet when you see the pictures of it, it's sat in the trunk of the car on like this clear, I can't think of what it's called, like plasticky sheet type thing, isn't it? It looks like in the trunk of the car.
Right.
You can barely see any blood on. I mean, you can't see any blood on there, and then it's just blood spatter on there actually. When it was tested with the luminol, yet they kept on about this blood-covered shotgun that he climbed over the dead body to go and pick up out of the car, out of the closet, and then he hid it in the car and everything like that. Well, obviously, Guy's just explained all of that as well. But yeah, I just want to say about the fact that they were saying it was this blood-covered shotgun when actually it wasn't. And then when you've got that as well, you've then got the officers believing they'd been shot. Yeah, anyone that watches like crime programs and things, they test, if someone's been shot or they think they've been shot, what do? They test the person who's there. They test their hands for gunpowder residue.
Yes.
Why was that never done? I mean, they're so convinced that he's stolen this shotgun out of the house and, they've all been shot. So why did they never test their hands for gunshot residue? If they believed that much that they'd been shot, like they're saying they believed it, they didn't realise they were beaten till they were having the autopsies. So that's like a couple of days later. Yeah, they never tested his hands for gunshot residue. It doesn't make sense.
Right, and it should have been done immediately. Mm-hmm. And they claimed that they never knew that it wasn't a shooting crime until the autopsies actually began.
Yeah,
so that
which was
would
on
have
Monday,
given them,
wasn't it?
Yeah, so that would have given them plenty of time to check his hands.
And he was in all the time as well. He it's not like he went home and backwards and forwards. He, within an hour he was at the station being questioned, and he never left there for like 6 days or something. So they had every opportunity to check his hands.
Absolutely.
Doesn't make sense, that. The boot prints on Russell Toler Jr.'s leg, you can see them. Michael Knox points them out. There's like boot prints on the trouser legs of Russell Toler Jr. in photos that were taken by Glynn County. Guy only had one pair of boots, and they were at his boss's house, and the police collected them from there as well. No blood, nothing on them, and he was wearing flip-flops, which are smooth-soled. So, where did these boot prints come from? Why were they never looked into more?
Yep. Questions that have never been answered.
Did they record the boot size from the print? I don't even know if anybody even noticed it until Michael Knox brought it up at the trial. If that was the first they heard of it, or I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think. I don't think the cops paid any attention to the boot prints. I don't think I am sure that, maybe somebody glanced at them and saw them, but they did nothing with them. As far as I know, the fact that they showed up in photographs was just accidental. It wasn't that they took pictures of the boot prints. They took pictures of the body in which the boot prints just happened to be visible.
Yeah. Another piece of evidence. Okay, right. The document then. Guy mentioned about the document as well, that they say had Guy's bloody palm print on, which also had 4 drops of blood on it. 3 of those belonged to one of the victims, and one was unidentifiable. And Guy was around this side of the bed as well, because obviously he was sitting with Michael. So, there was no. They say it was claimed to have been found in the drawer, but there was no record anywhere to say it was found in the drawer, was there, Daniel? It was written.
No, there was no
bedroom.
There was no record of it. There was no witness from the police department that would say it was found in a drawer. The judge ruled that they could not say it was found in a drawer because nobody knew, and there was no proof of where it was found. There was no report saying it was found in a drawer. So the judge ruled that part of it out. They could mention the document, but they could not say it came from a drawer. Well, that did not matter come the end of the trial, because in the closing arguments, the prosecutor still got away with saying it was found in a drawer, and nobody stopped him. The judge didn't step in and say, hey, we already ruled on that. And then the Judge Scarlett, even, backed up on his own word when he wrote the motion to deny the retrial, or he wrote the denial. He too mentioned the document being found in a drawer. So
even though he was the one that ruled it couldn't be.
Exactly. Which just goes to, it's almost like the prosecution wrote the judge's denial for mistrial, and the judge simply put his signature at the bottom, which has been proven to be done about 95% of the time in appellate courts, that appellate judges simply take the prosecution's word verbatim, mm-hmm. and then put that down as their own opinion, which ought to be downright illegal. But they get away with it. And a study was done, and they said 95% of the time it happens.
Crazy. Okay, so the evidence that was removed and tested, they picked up over 600 pieces of evidence. That's what the police say. If you ask Jackie Johnson, she says over 1,000 pieces, but only bagged and tagged roughly 200 of those. In closing arguments, the prosecutor said the only person's DNA inside that house beside the victims belongs to Guy. Because he lived there. When they say it's like it's some big surprise, other than the victims, the only person's DNA we can find is Guy's. When they collected between 600 and 1,000 pieces of evidence, yet only tested 200 of those.
Now, and when you say tested, now that's not. I don't want anybody to think that they tested 200 items for DNA, because that's not what happened. From the testimony that was given, they actually only tested maybe 3 or 4 items for DNA. So there could have been I'm sorry?
So that would be like the document, the headboard.
Right. It wasn't like they tested all 200 for blood and for DNA. They did very few. The other pieces of evidence that they had kept would have been, they tested the gun as well. But other pieces of evidence that they kept would have been clothing, Guy's clothing, they would have been just anything from, pizza boxes. Okay. I don't know, maybe they checked the sauce on the inside for DNA. I don't know. They didn't mention it, but they certainly did not test enough DNA evidence to say that, there wasn't somebody else's blood in the house.
Yeah.
And the most crucial piece, of course, just like Guy said, was the bloody clothes in the bathroom, mm-hmm. where everybody agreed, every officer agreed none of the victims had been in the bathroom. Yeah. But,
they never tested it.
Right.
And then testing what they did test only to Guy, like the handprint on the headboard. It didn't match anyone's.
That's still. I mean, that is absolutely. There's just no reason for that. There's no reason to say only tested against him.
Because surely at this point he hadn't. I mean, this is a point before he should be still being classed as innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
So they should still be looking at, even though they should still be looking at other options, even though him.
Yep. And the Georgia Bureau of Investigation said themselves, hey, we'd have tested every piece of evidence if they brought it to us and asked us to test. You know, they did not ask us, so we did not test it.
And like you said as well about like, you know, how testing's come on over like the last 11 years as well.
Oh, there's been huge strides.
If there was a photo of that handprint, then is it possible?
Oh, definitely. That's how they do it. I mean, it is when they put a fingerprint or a palm print through the national database, it is done by photograph. So anything that they would lift, that they would take, you know, whether it's using a cellophane tape and they put it over the fingerprint with dust and they lift it up. This is a little bit different because was probably not dust necessary. You know, this is a bloody handprint, and blood, you know, will stay in the creases in between your fingerprints, in between the grooves and the lands, and transfer that way. So there's probably a photograph. Well, there's without a doubt, there's a photograph of that print somewhere.
Yeah.
So long as it hasn't been misplaced or thrown away or just can never be found.
Yeah.
Which is why I sent, you know, my letter I told you I sent to the GBI saying that they needed to secure the evidence from this case before, you know, God only knows what's going to happen with the situation up there and defunding the police department and disbanding the police department and the trouble that the DA's office is in. Who knows what, you know, I'm sure that it is all just kept in a storage unit somewhere, a regular storage shed. I've seen it, not theirs, but I've seen them just store it at a, you know,
I've
local.
seen on, I was watching something called Netflix the other day, The Innocent Man I was watching.
The belt.
And that's it. But it's all kept, all the evidence was kept by the court reporter, wasn't it? She had all the evidence. So like
in a storage locker,
I had in my head all the evidence for Guy's trial would be kept. I don't know actually. Like where is it? Who keeps hold of it?
Yeah, and you have to really, you know, it if it is kept in a storage locker, now you've got to hope that it's a climate controlled storage locker, because humidity and temperature is going to take its toll on DNA evidence over the years.
There should be some sort of better procedure for all this, because, you know, when you do have people that are found guilty that are going to appeal, they should then have the fair chance of the same evidence again.
Oh, absolutely.
If it's not properly preserved, then how are they getting that? It's you know, if you go and go, oh look, we kept all of the evidence from Guy's case. It was all in this storage, whatever. And oh look, we've just opened it and it's leaked and everything's got wet and nothing's any good anymore. I mean, I think they just, surely there's got to be something better than that. I kind of had in my head it was all kept at like GBI or I don't know, somewhere.
Yeah, no.
Until I saw that on The Innocent Man, I was like, what? She's literally this court reporter's just driven out to this random lockup place to go and get this evidence.
Right. Just a self-storage unit. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all they were using.
Yeah. That's crazy. So yeah, I don't know where all the evidence is then from Guy's trial.
And that's a big problem. There are oftentimes they're like, hey, yeah, sorry, we can't find it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got that other case going right now that is all happened before DNA evidence was even a thing, before they started testing DNA evidence. And it was an assault case, and they had 3 items there that are going to have DNA on it. But the case is 35 years old. Florida's law requires that you retain evidence until the end of a person's sentence. And in this crime, nobody was killed. 3 women were assaulted. And the guy got 6 life sentences for it. And I'm just hoping, you know, that evidence is still around, not degraded and turned useless, if we can even find it.
Yeah. Yeah, there should be something better done with like preserving evidence. It just...
Yeah, oh, indeed.
It's like, it's right, okay, who should we hand this case's evidence over? Oh, we'll give this one to the court reporter. Oh, we'll give this one to a juror. I'm like, giving it to the court reporter, you might as well give it to a juror. It's just like...
There was one case we were looking for evidence, and it had been 10 years since the case had ended, and it wasn't one that I was working on, but they actually found the evidence that they were after the judge left the bench. It was in the closet in his office.
Ah, oh no, that's sad. Yeah. That opened my eyes to what's actually done with evidence after a case.
Yep.
But then the court reporter gives her the belt as well, doesn't she? She's like, here you go, you can have the belt. It is suspected murder weapon and everything. Yeah. Oh, I thought it'd be sentimental to you. Take the belt that she was strangled with. Like, who would want it? One. And two, it's evidence. Can they just give evidence out like that just because the court reporter was like retiring or something?
Right.
I just got to clear everything out. So, okay, let's get rid of the ketchup bottle. And, what? Like, surely it's just got to be kept for a certain amount of time, surely. But is there a law on how long evidence has to be kept for or should be kept for?
Yeah, there is. It's not. It is state by state, so it's not just because Florida's, but I believe I checked Florida's against Georgia's, and they are pretty much the same. It will be kept till the sentence is carried out and fulfilled.
So in Guy's case, then, technically, they should be keeping that evidence indefinitely. There's no time limit on they go, right, okay, it's been 10 years since the trial, the evidence, we can get rid of it now.
Right.
Technically, they should be keeping it indefinitely.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's hope they have. Okay, Daniel, that was what I had on my list. Did you have anything else you wanted to add? Or has anyone got any questions?
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add myself, but certainly if somebody has something, fire away. We'll see if we can answer it. Guy is much more, he's going easier on the police department than I would.
He was being very polite about them, wasn't he?
Yeah.
That's just him, though. Like, he doesn't hold a grudge against anybody. Do you know, I've had this conversation with him, said, like, people would expect you to, be angry at them and things like that. I said, you're not. Like, you're, not just positive about things, but like there is no anger, there's no anger, there's no resentment, nothing like that. And that just goes to show the type of person that he is.
Mm-hmm. Now, he did point out, that he thinks, John Johnson was a bigger problem for sure than the police were. And that's quite possible. I'm always going to question the police and the prosecutor, just because, like, everybody that I've talked to up in Brunswick suddenly couldn't talk to me anymore. It was like somebody went and told them shut up, including Dixon, the reporter. I don't know how many emails we had exchanged, 6, maybe 7, even after I went up there and visited him. There was another one, and then suddenly he won't even respond to an email and say, I'm not interested, or hey, they told me I can't run the story, or anything like that. Just no response at all. And then the lady that was going to meet me, who testified at trial, and says, come up here and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Just let me know when you hit town. So I drive all the way to Georgia and up into Brunswick and get there and say, okay, I'm here. Where do you want to meet? She's like, I can't talk to you.
Yeah.
So what the hell happened overnight that suddenly, you can't say a word to me? But,
as Jennifer said, he sounded frustrated that many of them had died more than he sounded angry. Yeah. I mean, what happens, I know we've spoken about this before, but like for anyone listening, Daniel, so like those officers that gave evidence, that took the stand, that have now died, in a retrial, what would happen?
In a retrial, they would just have to go off the testimony that they already gave. Okay. They can't speculate on what might be different now, or what they would have said. There are people in addition to, like, okay, Mike Owens is no longer with us. However, I would consider, if there was a new trial, I would actually consider having his wife put on the stand. Like I said, it's very odd that he had so many problems that he was with preservation of evidence and handling of evidence, that he was under investigation by internal affairs.
Tyler said as well that after he gave his evidence, he was sat out in his car, like crying and being consoled by another officer.
So I'm wondering if he didn't take stuff home with him, if he didn't keep things, mementos from cases, and the person that would know about that after he died would be probably his wife, going through his boxes and clearing things up.
Jennifer said, can they accept new evidence in a retrial?
Oh, absolutely.
So it's like starting from scratch, basically. You go with whatever's left and whatever you've found since.
And this is, the fact that people are dead, it would come into play with the prosecution's decision on whether to even retry a case. Will they even still have a case without these people personally taking a stand? And that would be based on just their decision. But I don't think today, knowing that we know, and it is just speculation on my part, but I think now that the case has already run its course once through the court system, and a defense attorney would know exactly what the prosecution is going to bring to the table, I'm not sure that the prosecutors, the DA's office, would want to retry this case.
Jennifer said, if they don't have a case, what happens? What would happen then?
They would be given some time to decide. The prosecution would, and they can come right back and say, we're not going to retry.
So, for example, the appeal's gone in. We've got till October for the oral argument thing with the appeal. So if from that, the Georgia Supreme Court judges say, I'm granting a new trial, then the prosecution can say, we don't want a new trial, we give up.
Yes.
And then that's it, case over.
That's it, case over.
And Guy goes home.
And Guy goes home.
But then we're talking about Glynn County. But
don't go home there. I have an empty room downstairs.
I didn't mean that. Yeah, I didn't mean go home to Glynn County. I meant we're talking about Glynn County prosecution. Would it still be, so if they gave a retrial, so let's talk about the appeal for a minute. If they turned around and said, okay, we're going to grant you a new trial, okay? Mm-hmm. And would it then be held in Glynn County again? Can John B. Johnson and Jackie Johnson, if they're still got jobs at that point?
They are still going to be.
They would still be the ones that would prosecute, would they?
Yes.
Let's hope they don't have jobs. It's not looking likely at this point, really, is it? All these
not
people
really
calling her to step down and things like that. But you'd almost want to hope that then a new prosecutor would look at it and go, like, literally think logically about it and go, oh my God, okay, what were they doing? It's just so hard, isn't it? Because it's such a big case for anyone to say, okay, let's just throw it out and forget about it, kind of thing, because need a solid case. And that would depend on how much evidence is left.
Right. And if they are not in office, I don't know if just somebody would pick it up from whoever is going to be in office at that time, or I would imagine that's what would happen. And I would imagine anybody new would be even more likely to just say, no, I'm not going to retry this case.
Yeah.
First of all, it's not their conviction, so it's not their biggest case. They're not really going to care so much about whether John Johnson's stellar record is tarnished even more. I say that with a lot of sarcasm.
Would they be better or worse off to the defence team? Would they be better or worse to try and get it moved somewhere else? Would it, like, if Jackie Johnson and John B. Johnson were not the prosecutors at this time, would they be better to have it in Glynn County or move it out of Glynn County?
I think they would probably be better to have it moved out if they could. I don't know if a change of venue would be allowed at this point. For one thing, now with as much time that has gone by, they could probably find a jury that doesn't know anything about the case.
Because of how long it's been, yeah.
Somebody, we've run into people that have been like, yeah, I didn't even know about this case, that are from Georgia.
Yeah.
And
so then you hear people from Georgia that think they know everything about the case, yet know nothing about the case as well.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I know he's 100% guilty, that you get some people saying, yet they literally know nothing.
Right.
Like, you start talking to them and you're like, well, what about this, and that? Well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that part. I didn't know that part. And you're like, well, how can you be,
Yeah. Why are you giving an opinion?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But, and then you get some people, you just can't change their mind. But yeah.
Yeah. And Jen says, okay. Jennifer says, okay, that means we would need a solid case. Oh, absolutely. But I think the case is as solid as it needs to be already. I think the cases, it's going to be very, very difficult to find any new evidence unless somebody comes across a shotgun barrel, pair of nunchucks, and a hammer.
Or you find evidence of who actually committed the crime. You've got someone that will testify and say, I know it was this person because, if, for example, you had 2 or 3 people that turned around and that contacted you and said, look, I know it was this group of 4 people because that night or early hours of that morning, they came back to a trailer using, they'd all just showered or they all had blood on them. If you had 2 or 3 people that could testify to that, would that be enough to show who it was, or would that not? Would they just say hearsay or?
No, I don't think they would say it's hearsay if that person came and the people that are saying that actually come and testify to that fact.
Yeah.
That they saw it themselves.
They said, and if they said they came back to the trailer and said that they'd actually just committed that crime, they'd just beaten all these people to death, etc.
Right, and they were standing there with blood on them. Right, exactly.
So is it better that, like for a new trial, it's better that the evidence is all still there? I mean, if the prosecutors found that a lot of the evidence had in this time gone missing, would they be less likely to want to go to a new trial?
Probably less likely, because none of the evidence that they had pointed directly to Guy anyway.
No.
So it wasn't like they had a smoking gun. The one piece that they
story. No, it was basically 2 sides telling a story, and then the jury deciding which side they believed the most, isn't it? It's not like they went, we have this piece of evidence that puts in there, this piece of evidence that puts in there, and this piece of evidence that puts in there.
Right. They really haven't had nothing to begin with. So, the only piece of evidence that they had that they claimed put Guy's handprint on this piece of paper, they destroyed, or it was destroyed in testing. So that was their only solid link to putting Guy in that room. But even though they made it sound big, it didn't put him in that room at the time of the murders.
No. No. And it would have been stranger not to have found any of his DNA in there, because then that would be like, well, why your DNA should be in here because you would live in here. Yep. So the fact that his DNA was there was a normal thing.
It's one thing if they had collected blood and said, hey, we have DNA blood spatter on the wall that belonged to Guy. Yeah. But we already know that Guy had no injuries, so that was never going to happen.
And that's the biggest thing, I think, is like when you say to people, he did all what, somebody can do all this, kill 8 people, beat 9 people without getting one mark on them. Not just, he came out of there without a stab wound or anything like that, but we're talking about like no marks to him, no sore hands, no bruise, no cut, no nothing. There was nothing. I think he had one old cut, didn't he? Which,
Yeah, he had one.
by the way it was healing, they could tell that it was an old cut. It wasn't something that was fresh.
Right. There was it wasn't even a cut. It said it was a scratch on his leg, but it was already scabbed over. It was already healing up, so it didn't
must
come
be like,
from,
this Incredible Hulk, that can do all of this. He must have like this super healing skin as well at the same time,
Right.
It just, I think that's the biggest thing, is how can somebody do all that without getting an injury to themselves in the time that he had to do it, without also having any blood on him, other than the blood on his clothing, which was all transferred blood, which you would expect anyway.
Right. Yep. There was no spatter on them, even on, if he'd had other clothes on over those shorts and got a ton of blood spatter on whatever he was wearing on the outside, it still would have seeped through and gone to the other shorts as drops, as circles, as drips or whatever. It's going to go through it and just get on the back. The stuff that he had was from rubbing up against something or something touched him, or Michael touched him or something like that. It was not blood spatter or blood droplets.
No blood in the car either. Like not one drop of blood was found in that car.
Yeah, which leads back to then he absolutely, positively, if he'd have been the one that committed this crime, he would have had to have done it from the house and cleaned up at the house. Okay, and then other people are like, well, maybe he went outside and cleaned. I think that was brought up at trial. Maybe he went out and cleaned up at those. Okay, well, you guys went out there and you canvassed the outside area. Okay, you had somebody show up after trial to say, yeah, I conducted the search outside. Well, nobody ever mentioned anything being wet. Which, can you just imagine the amount of time you would have to sit outside with a garden hose trying to rinse off, and you're going to be out there, naked, standing outside in your yard with a garden hose.
With no mirror to check the blood that's, anywhere on you, to check that you've got to be able to get every single drop of blood off of you.
Right.
You wouldn't be able to do it. And then you got the tyre tracks as well. There was tyre tracks, wasn't there?
Yep. Tire tracks that were never looked at, never inspected. They didn't make any cast of the tracks themselves to see where they did say, that the tire tracks, Michael Knox said, did not come from the Cougar.
Yeah.
Did not come from Rusty Tola Jr.'s car. So I don't know. Where did they come from? Who else came up in the yard?
Exactly.
Obviously somebody else drove up there.
But they didn't want to look into that.
Too much work.
And that's too much work. It is a shame they didn't take castings, but okay, Daniel, is there anything else you want to say to kind of close this off?
No, like I said, and like you said, we've got till October to wait for the next step, which is oral arguments in Atlanta. And I'm going to drive up there. I think it's about 7 hours from here, but I'm going to drive up there and be present from that. And hopefully maybe I can report on how that goes before I actually leave the courthouse. It doesn't give you a lot of time. I think they've got 10 minutes in Georgia, where it's 15 minutes in Florida.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's not much time at all to get up there. And
maybe we can have maybe even a live podcast with, and I suppose you'd need to know what time it is and things. I was going to say, with Guy calling in and letting him know how it went, even some way of doing that. Maybe we'll see. We will see.
And I think Georgia, for anybody that I'll report on it, but I think eventually it will be on. It will be online.
Yeah.
The oral arguments are usually recorded.
With the way Guy's attorney is, it'll be more of a case of like me speaking to Guy and telling him, I found the report online, etc., and the outcome before he's attorney even tells him.
Yeah, right.
It's not good as the other bit, like, because they don't want to keep him involved in anything. Like, he didn't know about it being October or anything like that, so we found it online. So, okay, I know Daniel's got to get off in a minute to go to work. So, did anyone have any last questions for Daniel? I think people have been asking. Well, Jennifer's been asking as we've gone along. So she's nosy.
Yeah, well, anybody ends up with any questions that you can answer, I'm available on Messenger and the Island Innocence page. You can message me there.
If you're not in Guy's Voice, come over to the Guy's Voice Facebook group or page, and you can find Daniel in there if you want to contact Daniel about anything. He's in there. He's probably the only Daniel that posts as much as what Daniel does in there. But I think that's it then.
Okay.
I think that's it for this week. I think Guy did brilliant on tonight's one. I think he definitely got out what he wanted to say. He had a lot to say tonight, which I think was really, really good.
Right.
I think he did really well. We was lucky to get him on. I didn't know if we would or not because of the phone situation, but luckily we did. Lovely. Right. Well, thank you so much, Daniel.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Thank you. And thank you, Jennifer, for all your questions. And I'm going to end it then. Thank you so much. I will speak to you later.
All right.
Bye. Bye. Bye.